Hey, everybody. Welcome to I've Been There, Brother, the show about the common struggles we all face, we do not talk about enough. But dadgum, if we do, it can bring us together. That's William wearing that good thank you hat. My name's Keith. We're glad that you're here. Good morning, William.
Good morning, Keith.
Question of the morning. Do you wear pants when we're on here?
Yeah, I do.
Do you?
Yeah, it's cold out here, so I have
I've
to.
only seen you stand up a couple times, and you were panted.
I was. Sometimes, I wouldn't doubt if it comes down to the summertime because it will probably get hot out here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Think you might go
I'll probably
pantsless.
wear shorts, but I don't think I'll ever be less than that. How about yourself?
Yeah, I always have pants on. Do you take? I'm gonna tell you my whole pants thing. What do you do? A lot of like video meetings for work?
No, but now today, actually, with all of our, we're having a team meeting, and today we're doing our first Zoom meeting rather than have everybody come to one location. So it's funny you ask because today we're starting that.
This is your first Zoom meeting with work?
Yeah, with all of our managers and leadership. So it's funny you ask.
Dadgum. I think I've done like 9,000 of those.
But
the reason like I said, I've done a ton of Zoom Teams meetings, whatever you want to call it. They're all the same. They're all the same thing for work. And I have gotten very particular about what pants I wear during those meetings.
For comfort purposes, or?
Yeah, no, not for comfort. So if I wear, one second, you know what I did? I moved my microphone, and now I can see the green light reflecting off of this, and it's driving me nuts. I got to figure out how to turn that off. Okay, there we go. We're back. I've learned how to turn the flashing light off on my microphone. Okay, so I've been at a ton of those meetings. And yes, I'm very particular about my pants selection. For a while, I would wear sweatpants because I thought, oh, this is more comfortable. I really like this. And I don't feel pro enough. I feel too casual. Like I wear a fucking duck hat at work and in all these meetings. I'm wearing this. My hair might be kind of sticking out. Maybe my mustache is a little crooked. I've got a sweatshirt with a cow on it. But I'm like, nah, I'm not pro enough without the right pants. And so like right now, here, I'll stand up. Jeans.
No, dude. You're wearing jeans?
Yeah, I'm wearing jeans. Why wouldn't I wear jeans? I gotta get my game face on.
I mean, that's intense. Like I feel
if I wear sweatpants on something that I'm not on Zoom just talking to friends. It's like it's podcast, it's work. Yeah, dude, I have real pants on. I have socks on. I put deodorant on. I try to. I can wear whatever on the top, but I'm fine. But if I have the wrong pants on, I don't feel pro enough.
I'm wearing gray sweatpants. I think I mentioned this, but these are the gray sweatpants one of our listeners got me from my crapping my pants story. Oh, yeah, so I'm wearing those today. They're actually really comfortable.
I love that for you.
Yeah, me too. They're actually my favorite pair now. So they're definitely a brand I probably would never have seen, but it's something he wears because he does certain work. So
nice. What's the brand?
True Works, TRUE, and then WERK. True Work.
I'm sure they're great.
Neither have I, but it's really comfortable.
Okay, so speaking of work, I want to talk about what we should expect to get out of work because I'm trying to think how to word this. I'm not going to say the name of the company. I used to work somewhere. Some of our listeners used to work with me there, so they know where I'm talking about, but that's fine. Man, that company is going through a huge change. It made me realize some things. They're realizing some things. And we have actually pretty differing opinions on how we feel about, where that company's at. And it's not just that company. There's all kinds of companies going through change. And we spend most of our awake life at work as adults. And the more people I've talked to about what do you think you're supposed to be getting out of your job? Man, there's a lot of of different opinions, and I think sometimes my opinion is different than what people think it's going to be from me. I want to talk about that. You want to talk about that?
Sure. I think that that's also just like a super loaded conversation because whether you're working there, what position you're in, if you're in leadership, if you're not in leadership, um,
You think
but then
so?
also I do think that matters. Yeah.
Tell me why you think that matters in terms of what you get out of work.
Well, because in one hand, let's say you're not in leadership and you're just um, another person punching a clock, let's say. Is your purpose growth? Is your purpose doing just specific jobs throughout the day just to get through the day, collecting a check? As a leader, now you have to manage people and you have to try to, in a way, help the business, help the people, help the business. I don't know. I think it changes your perspective on what your day looks like. And in some cases, you're probably being like a parent for some of these people, frankly,
Mm-hmm.
and when you're in leadership. And I, we've all got life outside of work, and that can get difficult.
So are you thinking of what you get out of work? Like, this is what it's going to do for me today? Is that how you think of that topic?
When I think of the topic, yeah, I think about like what the like a satisfaction from work, from deciding to do a job. What do you think of?
Whenever someone says to me, what do you think you're supposed to be getting out of work? I think of what fulfillment am I getting in life? What is this providing for me in the future in terms of skill sets, ability?
Big picture.
I think big picture. That's what I'm not
Which,
saying that
it's kind of like
you're
the
wrong
same.
or I'm
Mine's more
right. Or,
instant. Yours is yeah.
well, yours sounds very instant. Like, what is this doing for me today? And I'm like, what is this doing for me in 20 years? And it's not financial.
Yeah. Oh, definitely not. I think I've realized that I went from trying to like pay the bills to which now that I'm sitting here talking, if this happens, I feel like every time you make me question things.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, it works. Because I've worked in different places. I think back to growing up. That was something that was really instilled in me. Is like, and we've talked about this work ethic.
Yeah.
And I was, making sandwiches since I was 11, 12 years old, and then before that, my dad was making me sweep the parking lot of cigarette butts and trash for $1 an hour or $2 an hour, and it's like that was always something that I did. And even then, it was more of like an instant gratification. Now that I'm saying that, like I'd go buy Pokemon cards or Yu-Gi-Oh cards with my couple bucks.
So I started working at a bike shop when I was 15. They gave me a job because I just hung out there. And so whenever Keith was 15, I was not thinking about...
Wait, before you go on, was that picture you posted the other day, was that 15, Keith?
I think I could drive then. I think I was 16.
Dude, you were tall then.
Was I? I don't know. There's no reference point. Someone was asking me when I became 6'4", and I'm like, I don't fucking know when I became 6'4". I don't...
Yeah. Sorry to cut you off, but
you're okay. When I was 15 working in the bike shop, I was not thinking, what is this going to do for me? So I think there's room for both. So we should probably we could talk about both, because I think it's important to be happy day to day, and I also think it's important to be happy, and get some fulfillment from that long term as well. So so I think let's start here. I worked at a company for 15 years and I decided to leave. And when I left, I hated it there. I was like, this sucks. And it was a company I thought I was going to be at for the rest of my life. And, I left. We've talked about that. And since then, there's been multiple rounds of layoffs. A lot of people have lost their jobs. And I've had some people reach out to me and say, this company is ruining people's lives because it's eliminating the jobs. And they like hate that company. Maybe they think that I'm going to share that. And while I love a good vent session, I will talk shit. I just have a different view of it. And, you know, I didn't have that. I think whenever I was on my way out, there was anger and resentment. That didn't last that long. And so I can sit here and I can go, I do not agree with the senior leadership there. I don't agree with the president of the company and the decisions that they're making in the last couple of years. Like I don't agree with those. That's why I left.
Yeah.
At the same time, I'm not willing to throw out 13 and a half out of 15 really good years because they moved me around the world. They taught me a lot. They made me who I am. They taught me all of this leadership stuff. They developed some of the best leaders I've ever met. And to say that they've ruined my life or to say that really they've had any negative impact on my life besides an unfavorable experience for 18 months, I think that's fucking stupid. And I'll talk a little bit of shit with some friends and, like I said, it's fun to vent and it's a slippery slope and all that, but I'm not going out publicly and saying bad things because I really don't have bad things. I don't agree with them now. But I think of what I got from that. And that made me think about this topic because obviously I had that conversation yesterday with someone and it's got me all fired up and we should talk about this. So that's where I'm at because their expectation was, well, I don't know what their expectation was. But it wasn't that they would ever be let go. And at the end of the day, I go, it's a fucking company. If sales and profit are not performing, you don't have a job. And that's why I fucking hate it whenever companies say, we're like a family. We're a family. Now, I worked there and they did say that. And I preached that. So I have been deep in that end of the Kool-Aid pool. Work is not your family. And that's okay. I wish I would have learned that sooner. Anyway, that's
interesting. That puts a thought into my head because I've always said the same thing, especially being a family business.
You say that to your employees?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
especially our leadership especially. I mean, they've been with us, many of them for so many years, which like yourself would be the same case. But one thing I go back to,
it's not, they're not your family.
No, they're definitely not. And though it's like I look at one who's been with us since we opened in 1995.
Yep.
I mean, I do view her as like family. Like, I mean, her mom used to watch me as a child. I mean, we've had loss together. We've had excitement together. I mean, I very much, I love her as family, and I think about that that's an emotion and a feeling that it's like hard to explain. Now, could she decide to leave at any point in time and just separate? Yeah, but I think family can do that. We've talked about that. Family can do that.
They can do that. They can leave. Let me ask you this. Let's say your son grows up. One of your sons. He's 25 years old and he has a rough patch in life and makes poor decisions and does not contribute to your actual family for 2 years. Are you going to fire him?
No.
If this employee has a rough patch for 2 years, takes away from the company, brings zero value to it, will you fire them?
There's definite possibility on that.
They're not your family.
That's very accurate. Ooh.
They are really good friends. It sounds like you've developed a relationship outside of work. And I'm not saying that's bad. They also sound like the 1% of everything in life. Nothing in life is absolute, right? So we can sit here and we can say, work is not your family. Dude, I fucking get it. I've got people that some of the best relationships and friendships that I've ever made came from work. And I think that you can have a lot of strong family characteristics at work. I think that as leaders, we cross a line. I think we cross a line whenever we go, we are a family. And whenever you say we are like a family, that to me, that gets close to crossing that line. Because my fucking mom never fired me for having a bad year. And if the profit of your location is going backwards, what are you going to do with that manager? You can't keep them. You're going to go out of business. And
No,
that doesn't mean you try to, you try to develop it and everything, but
yeah, exactly. And that's where I'm like, or as a leader, does that now all of a sudden change how maybe we're the problem? Maybe as the
probably.
parent in this situation, like, we're not taking the time to why aren't they being successful in 2 years? Or why are they feeling like they're not part
Mhm.
of a family anymore? Are we not including them? Are we not providing
Mhm.
that care? Are we not, not
Yeah.
coddling, but are we
Yeah.
not developing, like you're saying, that
Yeah.
creating that atmosphere that we're preaching and not including?
And so that's where we have to look in the mirror. Like
Yeah.
you should always do that. And I think it was a Jim Collins book or whoever it is, on fucking business book. And I totally agree with you. You got to look in the mirror before you look out the window. So
Yeah.
whenever something goes wrong, you have to look at yourself and go, have I done everything? Have I given the training? Have I given the support? Are they in the right role?
Hmm.
And then once you've exhausted everything that's in your control, that's realistic, then you got to go, is this the right person?
Yeah. Yeah, that's tough. And kind of even going back to the part where you're discussing it all, like even talking about your position at your previous employer and how 13 years. I think about that in our conversation that we had with Balance, like the last X amount of years of my life, like where it's like, oh man, I was terrible, I was bad at this, bad at that, and it's like, yeah, but there was still some good. Like, I don't hate the last 8 years of my life that now developed me to
Yeah.
who I am, and that is the long game, like you're saying. And I
Mhm.
mean, man, I look at other positions. I was fortunate growing up in a family business, but having left, I chose to leave, and I've worked in other large companies, large business. One that was private and then went public right before or right after we left. And I hear about that. Like, we left right before it went public, and a lot of my friends that were in that company after it went public, it was like, oh, it's a different animal now. They don't care about the employees. They don't care about the people. It's all about the dollar now. And
Yeah.
all that stuff. And when I was there, it was like a kid in a candy shop. I mean, it was awesome. People were treated so well, and all that stuff. And yet it kind of lost. And
Mhm.
I think that's also the same, even no matter where you're at. That's every job. That's
life.
life,
And
man.
we talked about this multiple episodes ago, where you outgrow friends. If you can outgrow friends, if you can outgrow yourself and change, why wouldn't a company change? And
Yep.
hopefully you're evolving together, but I don't think that's realistic. So these people have reached out to me and are like, man, like I said, like, oh man, fuck this and ruining people's lives. I don't agree. I think that there's hardship, and I'm not trying to sound like the super corporate guy, but I go, well, I mean, it sucks. Number one, it sucks. And a lot of the reason that some companies end up in a position that they need to be there, it comes from the leadership making poor decisions.
Mm.
That is a risk that we run being employed. Even if it's for ourselves, we could make bad decisions. And, there's so much that you can. So that's why I'm like, what are we supposed to get out of work? What do people think we're supposed to get out of work?
Do you feel like some of your responsibility, especially someone as a leader, that you're trying to help facilitate other people to get something out of work? Or are you thinking long game for yourself? Like, if it's beneficial to me, it can be beneficial to all.
I don't think of everything. It's a good question. So if I'm 42 and I've been working since I was 15, how long is that?
What's 35 years?
30? No, that's
Oh,
not
you're
right.
42?
Is that right? It's a long time.
No, that's 37.
Why can't we do math? 28
37.
years? No, it's not 37 years. I started working when I was 5. 27 years. 27 years.
10 years.
27 years. Come on. we just sounded like
math is
fucking
hard.
idiots. Yeah. It's early. It's early. By the way, I didn't get
cross over
so I
the
stopped
3
pressing
and you
these things in.
cross off the 2 and
Okay, let's say the first 13 years I probably thought that way. If this is good for me, it's good for you. And that's not recognizing that no one else is me. I became the most fulfilled in my career whenever I started focusing on other people's growth in their careers. Right? That worked the best for me.
You just said something that made me think about something that I've never thought about. Like when you said, that's not me. Like if it's good
Hmm.
for you, if it's good for me, it's good for you. But that's not me. I've never thought about the fact of like um, how much we try to put our own twist on our own, let's say, companies that we work for or businesses that we operate, other than the ones that are directly for you that you've created. Like it's not even our vision in a way. Like you think about that other job that you were at for 13
Hmm.
years that you felt so much ownership probably every
I did.
day and leading and all of this great, the family, but really it wasn't even your vision, but yet you tried to twist it. Like I think about that now that I'm
Well, I bought into the
as a
vision.
business
The
operator.
comp
Yeah.
the
It became
company
part
the
of you.
company had a well, yeah, that's because they did a good interview process.
Mm.
Right? If you're going to build a really good team, you need to have like why are you in business? Yes, we're in business to make money, blah blah blah. But like what's the purpose of your business? What are you trying to achieve? What greater good are you trying to do? That's what great companies have.
Yeah.
And whenever you have that and you have some core values to support it, you have a really great interview process. And whenever you bring people onto your team, you find out if they align with that. And if they align with that, they'll fucking buy in.
That's all part of it.
And
Yep.
yeah. It, and so for me, what the vision that was stated was still stated. The
Mm.
vision didn't change. The behavior of the company did change. So the behavior no longer supported the vision that we all bought into.
Mm.
And
Did the
that
leadership change at the top in that specific instance? Like, because
not
that's the
really.
same
No. Not
with our
really.
business that we operate over, let's say since 2015, there was a massive leadership change.
Hmm.
You go from the founder of the company for
Yeah.
many, many, many years that really focused on the leaders outside of corporate.
Hmm.
And once he passed, nobody else had the same vision. Nobody,
Yeah.
not even his family member that took over in the leadership role had the same exact vision. They wanted it to be that way, but they didn't have the emotion behind it like he
Hmm.
did. Like he cared and diligently. Not that the current leadership doesn't. It's just not the same vision. It
Well,
wasn't what was
I question how
created.
well that vision was communicated and how well it was hired around and
Yeah.
how well was it enforced, right? It's one thing to print the fucker on a wall
Yep.
and the ultimate leader, the founder, president, CEO points to it. Okay, cool. But do you live it? And if you're not
Mm.
building your team around that of like-minded people, you're not really living it. And once you
Yeah.
remove the figurehead, that shit starts to fall apart.
Yep. Mm.
And so yeah, I was bought in because I bought into the vision. You said right we talked about everyone's not me.
Yep.
And that's where as you go down in the organization, not to sound all hierarchy, but hey, I was a regional director and you have district managers under that and store managers under that and assistant store managers under that. And ultimately someone's at a very entry level
Not caring really.
position. Yeah. And so I think there's different degrees, but to say everyone is going to buy into this vision, you need that on some level. I also don't think everyone should care as much as the founder. I think you're going to care
Mm.
differently. Like you're going to care
Yeah.
differently. I think you need to align with the company and the values. And I think that if you're a really good leader and you do a great job of this, what you can do is you can go into your sandwich shop. I can talk to Linda and Carl, say, and have real, honest human connection with them. What do you want to achieve in life? What do you want to be when you grow up? Like, what are you
Yeah.
shooting for? Okay. And it's going to be different for everyone. But usually, if you think about if someone's striving for something, even if it's outside of working at your business, we need skill sets
Mm.
in life to achieve the things that we want. And you can dig in, whether you're making sandwiches, you're turning a wrench, you're whatever you're doing. There's some common skills that we can help people achieve. Communication, maybe it's making PowerPoints, maybe it's being efficient, maybe it's problem solving, that's part of their job, working with a variety of people. Those things will help you in life. And if you can find out what someone wants to do and then take what they're doing now, where you want to be, What skills do you need to be successful up here? Let's start working on those down here. And you can help them build that bridge to how cleaning the floor, maybe a stretch, but cleaning the floor,
Yeah.
we can learn something from that that's going to help you later in life, and try to get them bought into something bigger, because no one's going to be anywhere forever. So let's try to get out of this what's going to help you grow.
Yeah. I also feel like even just being currently like where we focus on our attention and we talk about, like yesterday I was in a location and I think a lot of my life lately, I went from seeing the example in my parents, which I mean they operated a great business, and now even my siblings in leadership of what they do and working alongside one of them now in their own companies. And I just feel like where I focus my energy is different now too. It's not so much, it is the long game, yes, but I don't even think it's just about the business. Like you need the business to survive, no question. Like I mean, without it, there's nothing in that regard. And why are we even here? But I've really, especially with like my faith, I've started really focusing on the people as who they are, and making sure that not taken care of per se, but like that when I'm there, that and this came from like our discussions as well, that I'm intentful on when I listen,
Mm-hmm.
that, I take time to like, man, because life is short. When you think about the
Yeah.
grand scheme of life, it's so short. And like that 15 years you just spent, like it definitely molded who you are, but it's not there anymore. Now it's on your wall. And it wears in part of who you are every day, but it's really not who you are. And there are people that are still talking to you for a reason. There was some sort of impact there that you put on their life or they put on yours. And that is so much more meaningful. So that long game is not even about a job at that point. It's about a people. It's about,
Yeah.
how that
It's not,
relationship.
yeah, it's not who I am, but it is in a way,
Yeah.
like, and that's where I go, well, what's work supposed to give us? And I am talking about obviously a bigger role. I also
Yeah.
worked at Taco Bell. So I worked at Taco Bell for 3 months whenever I was like 16 or 17. What did I get from that job? I don't know. Not much. I also wasn't there very long. It was very different. But I can think back to, I could go find something that I learned from there if I
Yeah.
really think about that.
Or someone. Like
And
there's probably someone you can think of.
here's, at that company, you were never promised a golden parachute, and all of that. But there was profit sharing. There were some stories told. If you commit to the company and you stay here for X amount of years, you're going to leave with well over $1 million. That's how
Mm.
this, like, we talked about that, and how that worked and the math behind it. And we told a lot of stories about that, and we're it's just like a family. And I think whenever you build that up and then you let people go through, what you could say is no fault of their own, it absolutely crushes people.
Yeah.
And so I think it paints a false picture. And so I think that it's easy to build people up to think what I'm getting from this company is set for the rest of my life, this 30-year career. And maybe that will be true, but it probably won't. And I don't know, maybe people feel like it's a bait and switch, and it's easy to get hung up on that. And I think that if if we start to realize and look through that, and then as leaders ourselves be a little more realistic about the situation and the reality of employment, and we don't sell that huge, like, stay with the company long term, and we focus more on, here's what you could grow here, fact. You can make money, fact. But here's the skill sets that you're going to be able to get from this to go help you do something else if you want to do something else. I think talking to your employees about what they want to do, and most of them don't want to be there forever, having that conversation and tying what they're doing today, how it can help them do something down the road. I
Mm.
do not think that makes people leave faster. I think it gets them more bought in.
Yeah. I would agree with you on that. I
So,
do, and I also think that like we've tried different things that I think work, and it's like if I'm creating it and not asking them for opinions, like where is their buy-in at that point? It's like, oh, I think this is going to really benefit you, and I want this to be like you're going to get a skill set from this, and let's build each other up.
hmm
And there's zero, like we had 3 out of 10 people buy in, and it's like,
hmm
why isn't this working? Why? Well, I mean, I never asked anybody's opinion on it. I never, not that I need a ton of people's opinion because I'm trying to guide and lead, but I mean, where's the benefit if it's just me who wants the benefit? And
yeah,
that's tough.
yeah. And some people, maybe they don't want to develop a skill set. Maybe it's
Yeah,
just
they just
money,
want to punch a clock.
right? They just want to punch a clock. Maybe someone just wants flexibility in scheduling. That's the
Yeah,
value add to them. I need a job where I can be out of here at 3 o'clock because I got to pick my kids up at school. Hey, we have a role that provides that.
yeah,
And also the realization that everyone who's on your team probably shouldn't be on your team. If you don't want to develop a skill set, if you want to make $150,000 a year and we don't have roles that offer that, and you're super pissed about it, you mentally quit, but you don't physically quit.
yep.
All these things. Not everyone should work everywhere. That's okay. That's not a bad thing. That's not the job fucking you. This just isn't the right fit.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
And so I don't agree whenever people get pissed about that at the company. I had that a lot. You have people, managing a store who are like, I want to be making $160,000. Brother, you are in not the right industry. Like that ain't gonna happen here. And
Yeah.
then and then the roles that do offer that, okay, you can't live here. They're not based here. Or you need
Yes.
to be remote. You need to be willing to travel. Are you willing to do those things? No, I'm not willing to do those things. Then that role doesn't exist for you. I've had a lot of people get really upset about that and feel that that's unfair. The company is doing this to me, right? They're not getting that out of the
Correct.
job. It's the wrong company. If you're going to make your box of what you're willing to do this big, then you have this many options. If your box is this big, you have that many options. That's not the company's fault.
Mm, I like that. Well, and I also think, I can think back to other roles that I've been in outside of owning and operating, where I've been around people that have been in positions for, let's say, 15, 20 years that, oh man, I'm just here because I've been doing it for this long and I wouldn't be able to switch or go anywhere else, or I hate this job. They're terrible. They're terrible. And it's just bringing the environment down. And it's like, there are people that are like that. And I think about myself that probably has a couple that are just literally punching a clock and in a way might bring the environment down because they're just life sucks people, stage one
Mm-hmm.
and two, and they're sitting there and nothing is great. Life is out to get them and nobody understands them. And it's like,
Yeah.
man, is it time to just move on? Whether it's them making that decision or someone making that decision for them, and how often we just hold on to people because we want to make people better and we want them to have just a better life, and I just want to facilitate that. Well,
Mm-hmm.
how much are you really helping them?
Well, you're not. You're keeping them from excelling somewhere else that they're going to be
Correct.
successful. And, we reach this point as leaders of we want it more than them because we're in a
Mhm.
leadership role. So in theory, we're good at identifying talent. And we hire somebody, and I hired someone once. His name was Ron. Ron you could see it, had everything it took to be amazingly successful in his role and probably grow the company.
Mm.
And so I hung on to that. And what would happen is Ron would do well for 2 weeks, shitty for 2 weeks, well for 2 weeks, shitty for 2 weeks. And here's the thing. We all go up and down, but Ron never started here and ended here with peaks and valleys along the way. That's just called growth. That's what growth looks like. But over an extended period of time, we just flatlined up, down, actually backwards, right? And it wasn't going anywhere. And I hung on to it. And that's when I realized I want this more than him because I identify the talent and I think I have some superpower that I don't. I can't I can't want it more than someone else. And just because they have the talent doesn't mean that they're going to apply themselves to use that talent.
Yeah.
And he didn't want it enough. So I had to let him go. And now he goes out and does other stuff and is probably way more fulfilled and successful. And like, it just, not everywhere is going to be a fit. And there's nothing wrong
No.
with that.
And not everyone is going to be successful. Like I think
No.
we're meant to fail at times. I think that's by design.
Oh, yeah.
Not everything's meant to work, and that's what
Everything's
does
easy.
make you better.
100%. So if I think about my last 18 months at that company, it's probably the worst 18 months I've ever had working anywhere. It sucked. And I think I learned the most in those 18 months of shit than I did the previous 6 years. They were different things, right? I learned how to navigate hard really well. I learned what I didn't like about a company, right? Whenever we see things that we don't like, we can complain about it, or we can say, I can learn from this. Like, I don't like this. I'm going to do this differently for my team. And we can complain about what's happening at senior leadership. Okay, got it. I don't like that. But what are you doing for your team? Are you doing the exact same thing for your team? Are you not giving them communication, clarity, and direction? Like, you're not getting it. You can still control teams that you lead. You can control your little environment and practice doing the opposite. And that doesn't mean that you should stay there and put up with a shitty work environment. You got to ride it out a little bit. You got to give it some time. But you can learn from that. And I learned so much from 18 months of navigating hard. I reached my end and I left, but I learned a ton from that.
I also feel like it's difficult for me because, like we're saying, how much of it falls back on us. But then I look at other people and I'm like, man, why don't they just do the same? Why don't they think the same way? Like, instead, we talked about like tribal leadership, and some people are just in that stage where they can't see that. They can't look in the mirror, and it's all, nobody else is going to get them. We were dealing with a situation in our local where a team member is no longer with us. And man, the conversations I've had since parting ways where it's like that we just don't understand, and they were doing so much for us. And it's like, I think there was definitely a lot of mutual feelings of we're both helping each other, but this whole aspect of like we were out to get them and it's like, no, like
I'm working through that right now.
Yeah, it's like, come on, the amount of work that goes into it. But were we doing enough? It goes both ways, but eventually I think people just aren't going to get it, like until they've gone through the suck. And
do you think you were doing enough?
I don't know that I was in a lot of cases. I think we were doing enough to satisfy the hole in this location, but like looking at, we can't satisfy. I don't think me as one person or me and my wife as operators can satisfy 130 people evenly. Like, I just don't think that's possible. I think that's where we focus on certain leaders and hope that we can teach them to then do the same thing that we're doing with them to others. And like, kind of, we're saying like almost like a funnel, like, but I've also realized that like strengths wise, like I've stopped focusing on any weaknesses and just like, okay, what are your top 5 strengths? Like, let's harness that, focus on those 5, and then continue on. And a lot of times I feel like we get sucked into the negative, like, oh, they're not doing this right. Let's fix that. It's like, no, quit trying to fix things. Like, what are they good at? What did they excel at? And what are they successful with?
Yeah, I agree with that. I do think that you have to stabilize weaknesses.
Yeah.
So
that's
a
great point.
Because you could
stabilize weaknesses. That's a thought. I like that.
Yeah, so let's think about this. Let's say you are in sales and you have someone who checks a lot of boxes in terms of strengths. So they are your top salesperson. They produce the most profit as well, because sales and profit are different, right? So they don't have to discount the shit out of stuff. They show up to work on time. They leave late, right? They hustle, they grind, they bring in new customers. Customers love them. Okay, awesome. Sounds like a superstar employee.
Mm.
Everyone who works with them fucking hates them. And it's not jealousy because of the top salesperson, because you have to figure that out, because people get jealous whenever someone's really good at their job. They make mildly inappropriate comments to other employees. They maybe talk a little bit of shit that they shouldn't to too many people, maybe about the company. They're spreading these toxic traits.
Yep.
Maybe they don't show up on time. Maybe they produce the most sales, but they come in an hour late and they leave 30 minutes early all the time. And it's not just about them, because what that does is that stresses everyone else on the team.
Yep.
That's a weakness. You need to stabilize that. There has to be, your weakness can't dip below the base standard. And if you don't have standards in your job or in your company that you hold across everybody, that one weakness can ruin it.
Yep.
I've let top salespeople go
before
before because they didn't put more on the table than they were taking off. And whenever you think about what are they putting on, what are they taking off, you could put 10 things on, you take one thing off, but it's a big one thing. You can't stay here.
Yep. I mean, it's just going to bring everybody else down. That's a great perspective, and it's something I feel like we deal with all the time, especially. And I don't know, in corporate side of things, I've been a part of it, but like in our companies, like we have super entry level that is like high schoolers, all the way up to people that are major. I mean, this is their career, because I mean, whether you pay accordingly or have a position where you're growing people emotionally, that's where it gets so. It is difficult, because you're trying to facilitate both aspects. Like you're like, oh, this kid is just going to clock, and that's it. And if they don't show up, or they're looking at their phone for majority of the time, but then we treat that adult the opposite. Like, oh, you can't be on your phone all the time because this is your job. It's like, it gets really difficult, because it's a different world from both aspects, but you have to treat them like you said, like a policy or a standard. I think we do that in life, like we are okay with certain being, like, who do you surround yourself with? We talk about our circles. We talk about who lifts you up and who brings you through life better, who makes you better each and every day. Well, if you have that one bad apple, or that, one rotten apple in the bunch, like, is that going to start making the rest of it poor? Is it going to bring you down? Or are you going to start slouching on your routine? And that's everywhere.
Well, yeah, because A, B, C, A players, C players, right? B are your average, A are your rock stars, C's underperforming. They show up late. They're on their phone all the time. A players do not want to work with C players.
No,
and
they don't want to waste their time.
And C players drive A players away, and they bring B's down to C's.
Yep.
Like, I'm not trying to be all Jack Welch here and say that you should fire the bottom 10% every year. That's not what I'm saying. So all of this, anyone who's listening who's like, man, Keith just fires everybody. No, I do not. I look in the mirror. I invest time, effort, focus. I also have a very short runway for how long you can't meet the base standards. So, if you talk about that new employee all the way up to a senior leader, if your company doesn't have values that it believes in, that people are aligned to, and if you don't have base standards that are universal across everybody, there's the first problem.
Yep.
And you can't show up late. Let's just use that. Cool. I don't care who you are. If you have there's a difference between a reason and an excuse. If you have a reason to be late, sometimes, okay, life happens, right? But don't give me some bullshit excuse. And so you start there, and you're right. Dude, if you're the 16-year-old kid, that might be all of it. Like, just base standards. That's all I expect from you. That's fine. And the people who go beyond that, guess what? That's who gets promoted.
Yep.
And then as you move into, an assistant manager, for example, like, the standards are going to be higher. The base standards always exist, but, can you clearly define the standards of that role? That's a big problem too, is that a lot of places don't define standards per role. What's expected of you? There's this vague fucking job description. We're all busy. And since we don't clearly have it defined, we pick and choose the shit that we want to enforce. It's not consistent. That's not fair to the employee. It's also grounds for a fucking discrimination lawsuit because you let this guy do it, this woman didn't get to do it. Congratulations. That's discrimination. An argument for it right there.
Yeah.
So that's a big problem. You
What
gotta
are you
have those
doing
standards.
at home too? Like, I think about like roles at home, like something we've been more defined on in our own home recently is just like what we're doing, but now it's bled over because we operate together with business.
Yeah.
And I think that's made things better. We have, you bring up male and female in our leadership. We're pretty dominant in the female aspect, and for myself, being the operator, I think about things vastly different. And now that I've incorporated my wife's skill set, I mean, our entire position, our business has changed for the better, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
because it's the communication has changed, and that's a huge part of it too. It's not so much just about growth for each other. It's how do men and women treat things different? Like how do they communicate? How do they treat it differently? What is their expectation? And I'm not saying it's always the same. I mean, like I have a sibling, and she is very motivated,
Mm-hmm.
and not that my wife is unmotivated, but how she's motivating people is different than how I motivate people. I'm very task oriented, and she's
Yeah.
very personal
Yeah.
oriented, and I think there's a lot of that gets missing, and we
Well,
don't
let's talk
take
about
enough
that.
time.
Yeah. That makes me think about this. Where I used to work, we focused on culture fit. Where I work now, we focus on culture add. And
Mm,
so culture fit was here is what the ecosystem that exists today.
yep.
Do you fit in that?
We
Okay.
talked about a piece of a puzzle at the one point in one of our
Yeah.
past episodes. Like, do you
Culture
fit
add.
perfectly?
Culture add says, yes, do you align with that? But are you adding to it so that it can evolve?
Mm,
And that's what I hear you saying is you're talking
yeah,
about having culture adds. They grow that rather than keep it stagnant and they
in the
fit.
same.
Yeah.
And I've realized that like you're not the same. Like I'm not what my dad and my mom were. Am I parts of it? Sure, but that's not been what's working. Like in my opinion, has it? I mean, have we been successful? Yes. Have we failed? Yeah, we've made a lot of mistakes. But the last few months, now that we're doing, I like the culture ad, like because since adding that in and not always being right and thinking I'm always right because I'm not, which is really difficult to say. It has been a huge growth for our company, but for me as you go back to the opening conversation of, what are we trying to get out of this job? What am I trying to get out of life? Like that, it's not even a job, but that my life is my job.
Mm-hmm.
And I just I am now in a mindset of how can I help everybody, not just
Yeah.
not make a buck, but just live their life the best. Like be respectful to people, enjoy their days, be appreciative of their day. There's only 24 hours in a day. We're only up for some of us half of that, and life is so short, and I just appreciate every minute I've got.
Mm-hmm. I'm really proud of you for embracing that you're not always right because no one's right
I like to
in the
think I
line of
am.
yeah, but you're not right.
No.
And a lot of people think that is a sign of weakness to admit that they're wrong. And I think it's easier to do outside of work, at work, whenever you get into a leadership role. It can feel like a sign of weakness. And it's not. It's the complete opposite. It is one of the biggest signs of strength if you can admit that you're wrong. And if you think about that company I was at, one of the biggest things at that company was people felt like they had a seat at the table, like they had a
Mm.
voice, that they could have an impact. And part of that was having open dialogue about new ideas. You could bring it up idea and it could go get implemented. And, CEOs, presidents, they look, there's a reason they're in that role. There is a
Yeah.
level of hubris that is in there. But they did a better job of being open to that feedback and taking it and doing something with it. And one of the big things in the culture that changed is no, president's never wrong, thinks they're the smartest person in the room, and look at it now. It ain't good.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing. And I think that's a lesson that you can learn, that I can learn, that everyone can learn. And this was not just me. The leaders in that business were the happiest and most fulfilled when the senior leadership was willing to just say, I don't know, or I could be wrong. I was wrong, owning a mistake, getting your core team together. What do we do? What do you think we should do? And then taking that and finding a fucking plan to move forward. That's super fucking satisfying. That makes you fulfilled. You're not just a cog in the machine. And that starts with being able to, the team that you lead, say, I don't know. Our job as leaders is not to have all the answers. It is to remove obstacles, help create this long-term vision, and aid people along that ride to achieve it, not having all the answers.
Yeah, and adding tools to the toolbox.
Yeah.
I forget that sometimes, that there are a lot of people in our own company now that have been with us longer than I've been operating this business. I bring up the gal who's been here since '95. She was 16.
And that's awesome, by the way.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And it's like I sometimes forget that. Now frequently I will shoot her or a couple others in our company that have been with us a long time that were with us when my father was operating and my mother were operating. And there were many things. I mean, there's a reason this business is still here. It does a fantastic job. It's not the same that it was. The world is drastically different as well. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I still shoot them a message and I flat out say, what do you think we should do? They don't have the quote unquote skin in the game other than time. They could mm-hmm. leave and nothing would happen to them. They'd go find another job. But at the same time, there is some, not just buy-in, but man, they've got some experience that I can't come up with. And I think that's like coaching, finding a coach, finding a mentor. There are people that have done successful things and I want to know why. What did they do? Because I don't know everything. And I mean, I have many coaches. I have mentors, coaches. We talk about that frequently, and everybody needs them. Everybody can learn from somebody. I learn something every Wednesday. We have these calls, and there's so much to be said for that. I listen to other podcasts for that, and
mm-hmm.
that doesn't mean everybody I listen to is right, because there are many times I'm like, oh, come on. That's not true. What do you know?
Yeah.
But
well, that's good that you do that. Who else has really good ideas? The 19-year-old part-time employee.
Oh man.
They're everywhere in it.
My favorite is when I'm in a location and we'll be talking about something, or even at we're having a meeting with somebody, and someone will say something and it'll be like a dawn on me moment where I'm sitting there saying why didn't I think of that? That's one of my favorite things, is to have that kind of epiphany of that is a great idea. Mm-hmm. It's cool to come up with your own idea, but it's even better when you have someone with you in your circle or in your group that comes up with a cool idea, and it's shoot, that is gonna, I think that hearing that, that is gonna make everybody else either more joyful or enjoy their day. And it's man, why didn't I think of that? Let's do that.
Whenever you create an environment where people are having those dialogues, it's not even necessarily the idea that someone mentioned or came up with. It could be the idea that comes from that, or the idea that comes from that came from that, and spawns from there. Another thing too, about growth at work, the company does not owe you a promotion just because you've been there for X amount of time.
Yes.
And not everyone needs to be promoted. Just because you're a good store manager doesn't mean you'd be a good, you could be a great store manager. That doesn't mean you'll be a good district manager.
Correct.
Some people, dude, it is okay to sit in a role and just your growth is becoming more proficient at it.
Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, I think everybody wants to strive for that. The title is such a stigma, in my opinion, that it's no, that just because you want the growth, or our culture says, if you're not growing, if you don't have the title, you're not doing enough. And it's no, dude, we have some people that have been in their role for a long time, and that is what they're great at, and they don't want anything else. But they They are someone that is so skilled in that area that I reference them to everybody. And it's like, man, that's such a cool weight.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's so cool. And they seem joyful. They seem, and that's their thing. Now I'm reflecting on that. I just need to ask, like, are you
Just need to,
happy?
well, yeah, you need to ask. And look, a title does not get you influence. You don't
No.
need a title. You don't need a title for that. And that's why we can't manage every employee the same. You manage the base standards and base expectations. But if you're not taking the time to learn what makes each employee tick, and I shouldn't say each employee, because let's say, like, I've led teams of over 600. You're not going to know what makes each employee tick, but what I can do is I can know what makes my direct employees tick, and I can model how we lead a team. I can model how we engage with our employees, and then they should trickle that down, and you can spot check that. But
Yeah.
to manage everyone the same that's not real.
Mm. And that's so hard.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
Yeah, you can be good and not do that, but you're not going to be great. So what do you want?
I just love I love helping people, and I think that's something else that emotionally drives it, but it also gets exhausting. It gets so exhausting to constantly try to help everybody, and you can't. Like, you just can't help. You can do as much as you can to blanket statement that for people, but not everybody needs the same help. Not everybody receives the same help, and you can't give the same help. And that's hard, because I think people, I know, like myself included, I just want, if I could help everybody cross the street, oh my goodness, I would be stuck there. I will hold the door for everyone. And like, I'm the guy that people walk by and said, you're going to be there a while. It's like, yeah, I know. I absolutely know that. And that's a draining thing, but I don't know. I have to learn to say no.
You have to learn to say no. And at work, your job's not to save everybody.
No. Yep. That's really hard to admit as well.
Yeah. It's not your job.
I will hold on to people for as long as, like, I will write them up, and then it's all of a sudden, what's the policy for if I'm not moving on from them after a certain point? What am I doing? But then I do that with other people. Like you said, you have to hold the standard the same. And that's something in the last few months that we've really harnessed, is like, you know what, just because it's so-and-so doesn't mean we treat them any different. We have to treat everybody, no matter what role, no matter what time they've been here, exactly the same. And that's hard, because the emotional side of it does come into play for me, because I am not that people aren't caring, but I sometimes care too much.
So my work's not your family.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
I drew a graph the other day
on your whiteboard.
And it was 1 through 10, 5 being the barrier to entry of being on the team and meeting the standards, not being awesome, just barrier to entry to be on this team, to work here. Okay. You're going to have rock stars at a 7, and then you've got people who are a 2. You can spend 6 months on some of those 2s and make it to a 4. You just burn 6 months to get someone still below average. And look, sometimes they're going to trend up. I would question why we have a 2 on the team. Probably, something went wrong to get in that spot. Or you can spend 1 month with someone at a 7 and turn them into an 8 and have a greater impact on everybody else. And that's where I think it's different that's where it's not a family. And we need to go. Let's go. You have to meet the base, and then we have to move on. So what do you think we should expect from work after we've been talking for almost an hour? People, not you, not me. What do you in general, like, what should we be expecting?
I almost wonder if we shouldn't expect anything,
Ooh, there you go.
You shouldn't have any expectations. I think for myself as well, I can't expect a certain outcome when there's so many opinions, so many feelings, so many life experiences, that I don't know that there is an expectation.
I think you
might want certain things.
I feel you, but if we have no expectations, that doesn't sound like a recipe for success. It sounds like we would just go into any job and be like, well, Keith and William said that fucking jobs suck and I shouldn't expect anything. So let's actually try to hammer this out. Yeah. Let's go, what should a leader expect from their employees? What should an employee be able to expect from any good employer, you're not going to get this everywhere. I would say if I had to do 60 seconds, as a leader, I don't think you can expect everyone to care like you. I think
There
I
you go. You
think
can't have that expectation.
like they're not going to let's say I founded a company. They're not founders. They're going to care like I care. Some people will, and those are your freaking superstars, and they're going to go
Yep.
on to change the world with you. That's fantastic. But not everyone's going to care like that, and that is okay. You need
Yeah.
now they need to meet the expectation should be, hey, they align with our values and they meet what they need to meet, okay, to do the job well and contribute to the team, put more on than they take off the table. As I think the employee, I think it's fair to go, I have an expectation that you're going to give me some feedback. You're going to give me some clarity. You're going to pay me on time, and you're going to teach me some stuff. I think if you have an unreliable employer that you're not getting you get nothing from it but a paycheck, and we're excluding the people who just want to show up for that. That's not who I'm talking to.
Yeah.
And it's unfulfilling and it's miserable to work at because they don't meet those expectations. I think find another job. I don't think you should tolerate that. There's lots of places to work. I think they should be adding value to you and your life. I do not think you should have the expectation that they owe you a promotion, that they owe you a 30-year career, that they should never fire you. That's an unrealistic expectation. I think you're setting yourself up for failure, and I wouldn't expect them to be my family.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm referencing is like those types of expectations. I think there's just as well. We use the term a lot, standards. I think we need to have standards, whether you're the employee or the leader. Like you have to. There are bare minimums you both need to do and need to hold each other accountable to.
Yeah, it's a relationship.
Yep. And they're not family, and that's really difficult for me because I've always built everything on family, which I think to an aspect you can hold a quality of that, but in reality, just like I said, we have someone who's been with us 30 years, and if she wanted to move on, she could.
She could. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have some family characteristics. I think that you need to care deeply for your people.
Yep.
You give them grace and you give them opportunities and you work through the struggles. And as soon as someone underperforms, you don't just go fire them. You look in the mirror. What can I do?
Yep.
I think where we cross the line is whenever we start calling it family, right?
Yeah. That's a good perspective.
What people hear is what meets their ear, not what comes out of your mouth. And you have to think about the things that you're saying and how they interpret it.
Yep. And I think lastly, especially in the leadership side, because both of us are pretty heavily involved in that, you're not always right. You're not always right, and it's great to reflect on that. You have a lot of people in the toolbox for a reason, and even if they're 16 or 60, they both bring a lot to the table, I think.
Yep. Here's to setting realistic expectations both ways. Everybody, we appreciate you being here and listening. Until next time, have a great day. Go out there, do something cool. We'll see you next time.